Welcome to Tapped In. My name is David Figueroa-Martinez of DFM Coaching. Today we're going to be discussing Positional Playbook, how to cook people. I am an avid fan of cooking my opponents. If you're not aware or in tune or have never been cooked, consider yourself lucky that it's never happened to you. You might be a lot bigger or just too new to understand what it is and how it happens. I enjoy cooking people because it makes my life a little easier when I do go for the attacks. But additionally, I am maybe a little bit of an asshole. I don't want to injure people. I don't want to repeatedly submit people unless I'm in competition mode, different rule set. But when I'm training you, I don't want to continually submit you and then make you feel like shit. Not my goal. But I do enjoy tormenting people to the point where they may want to consider tapping just from that. I enjoy the moments where we're rolling kind of hard, or maybe we're rolling in a certain way with some kind of intensity. And we get to a position where things are about to go really bad for you. And you can feel the tension leave their body. And they have, in essence, accepted their fate and what's about to happen. And they just sort of let it happen. I remember doing that for the first couple of times when I was a white blue belt and thinking, oh shit, he just quit. Like, he hasn't tapped yet. He hasn't told me he quit. But he's not fighting anymore. This person has accepted what's about to come, and they're not giving me much of a fight at this stage. So there's several ways you can cook people. The advantages of cooking people are that when you finally do get to a position of getting a submission, you generally don't have the same fight from your opponent that you would have had if you rushed it. One way to cook people is with physical pressure. I like passing with pressure. I like passing into heavy situations, a side control with a really, really heavy weight on their ribs, heavy on their hips so they can't quite move as well. And when I get to mount, I like to be heavy on the chest so they're not breathing as well. They can't extend their arms. They're forced to have to accept that we're about to go into a phone booth and your movement is severely limited. You're carrying my weight. Figure out how to get out of this. When I create these moments of cooking pressure, there is no space between us. And the structure of my rib cage, for example, does a lot of the heavy lifting. I'm not looking to hug you and press you into me. It's really about taking the weight off the knees and putting that weight onto my chest, sternum, and rib cage wall. And that forces them to have to carry my weight as fully as possible. There's a point, if you're feeling for your ribs, where you have the sternum right in the middle, and then it kind of curves out and down, and then it curves around. At the lowest point in there, I like to use that section of my rib cage on top of that same section of rib cage on them. When I go side control, I'm more in almost a casa, that body angle where I'm not straight on chest to chest. I'm curved. I'm kind of leaning or facing their head, not their sternum. And I use the point of my rib to land right on top of the point of theirs and then to get really heavy. So that's the focal point of my weight. It is uncomfortable. When you do this really well, you can genuinely make some people feel so uncomfortable they'll want to tap. It's hard to take a full breath. It's hard to move. You can't think of defending very well because you're now in such discomfort from that. When I'm in mount, I like to use the sternum to press down on if they have their hands in the way, I cover their hands with my sternum and I press that down. It holds the hands in place so I can start to get in for collar chokes and whatnot. And it's just physically uncomfortable. Sometimes they start to bridge trying to get out of it. But because your position's so good, You just allow them to buck and get tired. They cook themselves out. And then you reapply the pressure that you want. They're not breathing as well. They're exhausted. They start to crumble a little bit. And then you can advance to the next stage and do it all over again from that position. Sometimes when I'm in side control, I will take my right arm, the hip side arm. I will pull the opponent off of the mat and then slide my right arm underneath them and then drop my chest on top of their chest, and then their back is on top of my hand, wrist. That's not a fun position to be in either. So pressure-based cooking is really old school mentality. I don't see it as much in competition as I used to. I think we're all kind of passing. The competitive side is passing more at a distance and kind of submitting people in transitions as opposed to really heavy, like Hodger Gracie mount pressure. It's just a different style currently. But I think we're going to get back to heavy, like pressure cooking people. And you're going to start doing that as the older you get, or when your mobility starts to take a hit, because it's going to allow you to just cook people with body weight instead of using arm strength and musculature. I also cook people from an open guard position. So when I apply my guard pass these days, I'm standing there on their back. I do not go straight down the middle where both legs are in front of me. I cut an angle. I go to my left and I approach diagonally. So one leg is between both of mine, and then they have the knee shield and they have the hands extended. I like to cook people from this position where I lean my body weight on top of them and they have to hold me up. And then I shimmy just slightly and then they have to adjust. And the adjustment forces them to use more energy because then they have to reposition the hands or they have to reposition the knee shield. They have to push and then reset. And that constant pressure is cooking. It's not the same cook as physical pressure that I have when I'm chest to chest. That comes later. But in this scenario, it's constant forward pressure where they have to keep their weight off of me. And when they start to get tired, the hip bone starts getting tired, the arms start getting tired, the knee shield will start to falter, and then I could get a little closer. I can pull the knee shield out of the way. Now they only have the frames, and then I can swivel or I could shimmy my way even closer. And once I get chest to chest, now it's that style of pressure. Another version of this pressure that I like to use is based on movement. And if you are someone who has speed on your favor, speed is huge. And you can create angles, you can create a lot of different things from just speed. Like if you're passing, some people will dart one way, dart the other, bullfighter pass, fake one way, bullfighter pass the other way. That's a way of cooking them too, because you're having to use so much energy to keep up with someone. I use this on a more limited scale where I do cut that angle and maybe I haven't dropped my chest on top of their knee shield. I'm still standing. There's still space between us, but I am using my hands to keep their feet off. I don't want them to hook and I don't want them to press their soles of the feet on top of me. And when I can do that, I start creating a little angle. I start ushering their feet out of place and then they'll have to bring it back, and I shove them off to the other side and they have to bring it back. And I'm cooking them with a little bit of cardio. I'm not using a whole lot of cardio, but I'm forcing them to have to use more to adjust on what's impending. There's multiple ways for this, but these are my favorites. We also have moments when you isolate an arm or a limb. Let's picture ourselves being in top aside, we're attacking the Americana. They will naturally start to raise or extend the arm because they don't want to be caught in that Americana. They'll extend the arm outward. You follow. You can hit a straight arm lock from there. If they turn the elbow 90 degrees or continue to go that 90 degrees from that position, then they have more Kimura. So their hand is going closer to their hip. And then once you get there, sometimes they start to straighten out again and then they go back to the Americana. And your process when you're in this situation where there's continual motion and sub attacks from the same spot is to let them burn themselves out. I isolate that arm. My weight's really heavy and the escape isn't quite there because they're so worried about the arm, but they have to continually to move And when they stop is when I'm going to end up submitting them. So they'll keep moving. And I have to understand the arm is isolated. I'm okay with the movement. I've pinned them down. Everything else is controlled. The last step is final control of that arm. And we can play this for a little longer than they'd like. And I'm fine with it. So there's times when I plant my hand on top and they'll circle one way and they'll circle back. And I just keep following. I'm cooking you because eventually your arm is going to get tired and it's not going to be able to continue this motion for long. So I have to be patient. I understand what's going to go on. I allow you to play your defense. I am controlling all the major points and arteries and escape routes. And I just wait. And eventually you just get tired. And then that's when I sink in either the Americana, the straight arm lock, or the Kimura. And then we start moving from there. And your defenses, again, they're not that sharp by that point because you're tired. You've been spending so much energy on the initial defense that once we get into deeper waters, there's nothing left really. The other aspect that you can do here is chaining attacks. If you're someone that likes to chain things like, let's try to picture closed guard and I've gone to triangle. I have the triangle, I have omoplata, I have the armbar. And then I have the in-betweens of like, we can be in triangle position, but you hide your hand in my hip, which generally leads to Americana, but maybe I, instead of opening up and going, leads to omoplata. Instead of me opening up after you've hit that arm in the hip and going omoplata, instead I go Kimura. And I don't have to open the legs. I'm chasing the arm. You led me there, and we're going to continue to play. When I threaten that, maybe you start to posture up and you want to drive the arm back around. Now we go back to triangle position. Once you get there, maybe you start posturing up or you stack in a way that I don't feel like I can get the triangle. We go armbar, and maybe you start pulling away. Now we go back to triangle. Chain these things together. The best athletes have a series of techniques and submissions that work in concert with one another that lead to one or another. If you're a leg entanglement specialist, you're going to have straight arm lock, you're going to have enoki lock, you're going to have heel hook, reverse enoki. You're going to have a bunch of different things within that wheelhouse. They're all chained together. And when they defend one way, you chase the other. When they defend the other, you chase this way. Same with when you're at top of side control and you're chasing that arm. You have Americana, straight arm lock, Kimura. They all interrelate. So if you can chain these movements together, your rate of fire increases so much that you cook them because they can't keep up with the exchange. So for me, I like going triangle. I never finish triangles. I will go Kimura or a Kimura variation, or I will go omoplata once they roll, because I anticipate the roll. I don't normally get omoplatas as a submission. We come up, I pinch my knees, we roll through. Now I'm in top with your arm pinched, you're on your back. Now I can go wrist lock to that inside arm. I can go straight arm lock. When your other arm comes in, I can go Kimura, or I can switch to mount. There's a series of attacks here that I'm really good with. So if I can chain these things together, you're just tired. You're defending one thing after another, and you can't keep up because I'm leading the fight and I'm dictating where the fight in the dance goes. Lastly, there's a mental pressure that happens here. Whether you're doing chaining things together, or you're isolating arms, or you're using speed to kind of cook them, or genuine pressure, there's a mental pressure aspect that happens here where they start to potentially doubt themselves or worry about too much, where they completely forget about genuine escapes and attacks. There's a moment, even when you're doing a pressure. I compare this, and I've done this before, Mike Tyson stepping into the ring and charging forward. That's, to me, a guard passer. Someone who passes with immense pressure either physically or by chaining things together and using athleticism. There's a level where you, as the guard player, are playing defensive, and you know this guy is just going to keep coming forward. He's just going to keep coming forward. And he keeps coming and keeps coming. You keep defending and keep defending. There's just a mental fatigue that incurs by trying to fend this person off with a lot of people, that alone can get them to almost just, fuck it, just pass. I'll deal with the pass. I'll deal with the escape later and try to get back into an offensive position. So yes, there's a physical and a mental aspect. There's a point where I like to create avenues of potential escape to shut them down, to wear on you mentally. It wears on you physically as well. But if I understand that we're inside control and you hip escape, and I'll let you get so far, you'll get that inside knee in, you'll try to frame away. I will bring my hip around to your shoulder, walk your knee back because I've passed your knee line, walk your knee back and regain side control, and then let you do it all over again just to break you down again. I have the controls. I understand where you're going, what you need. But at this stage, one, I'm taxing your ability to withstand with stamina, but I'm also taxing your mental ability and your mental load. You think, oh, I'm almost out of this bad position. And then we shut it down and we put you right back into that bad position. There's a mental letdown there where you're just like, fuck. Ugh, I did all that for nothing. So again, if you're looking to cook people, cook them with physical pressure, isolate arms and let them try to defend, and then wear them down that way. Chain attacks together where you're forcing their cardio to have to keep up with yours and have to keep up with every attack on top of the attack on top of the attack. And then start paying attention to the mental pressure that you can put on people. That one is, with a lot of people, you can break them down and they may have all the muscles in the world and they may have good technique, but when you put them in enough bad positions, a lot of people will just crumble. If you have any questions on this, or there's something that I didn't cover quite right, or you had further like, hey, can you explain this aspect or that aspect? Please reach out to me at dfm.2099 on Instagram and Threads. Additionally, I have a free school program, DFM Coaching, BJJ. You can look me up on school or go through the show notes. Again, completely free. Any questions, please hit me up. I'm hoping this helped with pressure and the different types. Until next time, thank you so much.